government can't get in, then everybody's walking around with a Swiss bank account in their pocket.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a treat. We have JC he's the founder and CEO of the Carbon Offset Initiative, or the COI. It's a pretty ambitious project. I thought it was pretty cool. Had someone reach out to me and ask me if I'd take a look at it. I really did like it. I like anything that uses blockchain. As far as this is, I mean, to say that it's a supply chain kind of blockchain is not really giving it credit. Can you give us kind of an overview of what the COI is?
Yes, thanks for welcoming me in your emission that I really enjoy. So, well, let's say that what we aim at is really to understand what's going on the sea with all the oil dumping and all the waste dumping, and also to understand how is not the supply chain but the use chain. It's like a symmetric position to supply chain. What's happening to the fuel oil that the boats loads, and during all the process, and what do CO2 emission become? How are the waste being treated? So it means we can follow every ton that the boat will load and use and dispose of. And the idea was to really put in motion some element of transparency, honesty, follow-up, traceability, and we thought that the blockchain was the best use of this for this problematic. And actually, what I wanted to say is that we took the oil waste and oil consumption as a first example, but what we hope is first to make a standard out of our idea, and then that we can adapt it and apply to other traceability of other waste, because unfortunately, as you know, waste is really becoming a problem, and we thought that we had a solution that could be applied at a global scale, actually.
Yeah, I mean, if you really think about it, everything is waste, just not got there yet. So with that in mind, at what point do you start tracking the oil or the waste before it becomes, because it's not just waste, you track it from the beginning, from like the plant, and then all through.
Yes, exactly. So actually, what we saw is that the boats, you know, that you have about 70,000 cargoes traveling every day over the world, and these boats actually produce a lot of nuisance. One of them is the CO2, the other is oil waste, because one should know that every day the boat is producing between 1 and 8 tons of oil waste per day. So I know it's a surprise for many people, but these waste, they have to be treated, you know, and they have to be followed. And I think it's really bad that we see all this illegal dumping happening in the sea, and also there is a lot of lack of transparency of the fuel oil is being used. So to come back to your question, our traceability starts when the boat is taking the bunker fuel oil, which is the gas for the car. The bunker fuel oil is a very heavy fuel that is really having a high calorific value, and this fuel oil is used for the functioning of the engines of these boats. So the first operation is upon loading of this fuel oil on the boat. Then the amount that will appear on the invoice of the supplier of this fuel oil to the captain will only be confirmed on the blockchain if the sensors that we will have put on the boat will exactly correlate what the shipper, what the seller of the fuel oil is saying. So because we have to understand that what we are going to render all the boats, so digital boats, they're going to be full of sensors at every stage of the production. We will put sensors around the engine. We will put sensors at the chimney level to measure the input, the consumption, the output, and then optimization of the routes, because you see, for example, we will be able to predict for the boats the best route that they can take. So the system is very complete, is very large, because it talks about efficiency, minimizing the use of fuel oil, therefore minimizing the use of emissions. We have to understand that every boat pollutes the equivalent of 80,000 cars. And as regarding the sulfur, and then regarding metals, because in this fuel oil, it's the bottom of the barrel after destination, there are also heavy metal. So the marine community is understanding this problem, and actually they are going to change the fuel that the boats are going to be using for better quality, less sulfuric, and less toxic. But this product will be even more expensive, so therefore there will be even a lot of temptation of evaporation, if I may say so.
Yeah, and well, also there would be a lot of incentive to try to optimize the route to use less financially.
Absolutely.
So you're developing a hardware that's not just for the sensors and all that to be put on the ships. It's not just tracking the waste. It's also helping to lower the cost with the optimization.
Lower the cost and lower the emissions.
And those are tied into like a GPS satellite system, or?
Yes, absolutely. Everything will be transmitted. All the data will be transmitted via satellites, and this data will be processed with the external data such as weather, swell, current, wind. Because you see, boats are as high as buildings. So, for example, if there is a lot of wind, then they can slow them down and increase the emissions. So the idea is really to give to the ship owners, because you know what is interesting in this project is that we really work. I think everybody has the same issue actually. So everybody wants a solution.
Mm-hmm.
The governments want a solution because they don't know what to do with this oil waste, because especially in emerging countries. The ship owners want a solution because with the slowdown of the globalization, the boats have to be more economic than before. The clients, the society also wants to have this kind of solution applied. And what we like in our solution is really covering to a point that all the delta, all the numbers will be on the screen, on one screen in the ship owner's place, and he will know as soon as there is a discrepancy. Because through the blockchain, you can really establish the traceability of the product, and then the traceability of what the fuel is becoming. So power is becoming sulfur, it's becoming waste, and then all the transaction will be validated backwards. So actually, if you look at the end of the chain, and I would recommend you to look at the chart, and your viewers to watch the video that we also produce, actually, it's at the end, at the very end of the waste, that we can go backwards from the origin of the fuel and be able to trace every gram of fuel that was used. So I think it's also very important that we can optimize them. And one last point that I wanted to say is that the shipping industry, with all the 10, 15, 20 years of non-stop globalization and non-stop international transportation, is going to face some turn down now with all the commercial discussions and disputes that are happening. And I think that they're really more than willing to get some solutions that will make them save money. We estimate that any boat can save between $50,000 and $100,000 per year. So you can imagine that if there is a fleet, I'm not going to tell the name, but there is a very big shipping company based out of Geneva. They have 450 boats. It means that those guys with their method, they can save 40 million per year.
Yeah, you
And
said
it's not negligible.
There's. I had looked into this, a year or two ago, just about the tracking of the fishing and merchant and all that, and the fleets are huge. The number of ships that are out there are just mind-boggling. But with that, there's already a lot of laws about pollution and regulations on the books. So why is it so necessary? You mentioned like evaporation. Is there a big problem with fraud and that kind of thing?
So, coming back to your first point, you're absolutely right. There are many legislation that are put into place, and the first principle regarding environmental issues is, and this is very often forgotten by the population, is that the polluter pays. So actually, every company is responsible until the proof of the total disposal of its waste. So it means that when you see some major manufacturers of printers that export the waste to landfills in India, this is absolutely illegal. So we are not only talking about ethical standards, we are talking about illegal standards. According to the Basel Agreement, I don't want to be too technical for you viewers, but the second principle is you have to dispose of your waste in the nearest country if you don't have any domestic facilities. So all this in and out and going and understanding and seeing that some countries are becoming really the dustbin of the world with the big dangers is really an issue. Yes, legislation exists, and legislation exists everywhere on the same principle. So this is the first point, I think. And regarding the potential frauds, actually, because I am a man from the field, I have quite some experience in the trading, shipping industry. There is, the ship owners, they have some control of the boats, but they are not there 24/7. Here it's daylight at your place. Here it's nightlight. What do you do when the captain is, for example, getting overcharged for fuel oil purchase? So I don't say that it is a general issue. I don't say that it's a general attitude, but statistically, even if you have the same percentage of people that steal than in a normal population, it's still something that can be significant. So there is this problem. So this is an economic problem. We have a pollution problem, and we have a waste disposal problem, and we have a solution for the three of these issues.
I've looked into your background a little bit. You have a few years experience in this area. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into this, why the sea, and how you got into blockchain in general?
Well, I have had an interesting life, and actually I grew up in Africa. And why do I say that? Because I was living in Africa in the 60s, and environmental issues such as deforestation were already a hot topic back then, you see? And so it means that, what is it? It's 50 years ago, 60 years ago, people that were living locally, like my family or like my neighbors, they knew that there would be a problem. And then I grew up, and I was very interested by every form of energy, and So I was a little already green by protesting against atomic power and other things. And then I went to the energy business because I thought it was a good way to understand how things were functioning, because energy is political, is economical, so it's very captivating. And I had various function in energy business, and then I decided that it was a coincidence of life that I wanted to see the other side of the coin and try to understand the pollution. And I even started some thoughts and some project, and I realized that if going from small to big would take me 3,000 years. So I tried to change the paradigm and to say, let's try, instead of trying to fix 1 point here, 1 point here, you know, I don't think it can bring the global solution that the emergency of the climate change and that the pollution is bringing. So I got ambitious and I said, why not finding a solution that everybody can apply, that is reproducible, and that is really something that can be used by everybody. And then through my other businesses or activities, I also teach in the business school. And so I follow all the technological changes, and I got introduced to blockchain, to all this Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, the system. And I want to say that something that in our project is very in our COI is very interesting, and I don't know if you have seen the team. I mean, we are very diverse, but
Yeah.
we're diverse in age, we're diverse in complexions, we're diverse in gender, so in experience. And I think that on top of it, it is a great human experience to have everybody. And this, it's only the face, because we have the computer teams, the technicians, etc., that are also working in relation with our project. And I thought this was very important, because symbolically it also shows that it's also my problem. You see, but it's also the problem of my children, and it's also the problem of my neighbor. And I thought that this was a way of communicating that it's a universal problem. And that goes beyond the political dispute, etc. We can't wait. We can't wait. I mean, we have already waited too long. And this is my point by talking about the deforestation that was taking place 60 years ago. I'm sorry, I might be a little bit enthusiastic and speaking a lot, but I am passionate about the domain, you know.
Yeah, I could definitely tell. The team is really, really impressive. You've got, but it's very diverse, like you said, but it seems everyone has, I mean, just from going over their LinkedIn's, some kind of either background or at least an interest and a passion for eco projects. I mean, you've got Harvard graduates. It's a very impressive team. But you started close to a decade ago.
Yes.
Let me get it right. The Clean Sea
Yes.
Services.
2011, yes.
Okay.
2000. Yes, almost a decade ago. Yes.
So you've been working at it for a while.
We did a lot of. I'm sorry for interruption.
No, it's okay.
No, we did. I mean, the market is complex, so we needed to do a lot of research and development. We need to understand what is the situation in emerging countries, because you know the Western world, the developed world, is treating its soil waste, but the problem is the rest. So there were a lot of studies, a lot of discussion with port authorities of various countries, and this is all this process that mature. The technology also regarding waste cleaning is also improving. There is a quantum leap through the adoption of the blockchain. 10 years ago, I was still considering, or 9 years ago, I was still considering the swirl angle, start one platform and then do another one. And this is what I explained earlier. And suddenly you have this blockchain, you have all this data transmission that you can do worldwide, you have all the technology, Moore's law has really helped us, the doubling computing capacity. So what is interesting, if I may say that, is that it's not that I don't want to compare myself to him, but Steve Jobs, when he say you put the dots together, this is kind of what happened to me. It's suddenly everything is coming into place, and the very diverse thing that our team did, that I did professionally, personally, etc., is kind of a convergence of people. And I can tell you, our organization is extremely democratic, for example. Everybody has a say, everybody has a role. Whether you are 25 years old or 50 years old, you join the project, you are empowered. And so it gives a great drive to the people that work with us.
We're bouncing all over the place, but you're hitting a lot of points that I wanted to ask on. So it's just, we just start going down those avenues. We're talking about a lot of data and a lot of information, like you said, out there. It says in your white paper that you're going to develop a highly secure cloud storage for all that. Are you going to develop that, or are you going to have a partnership with someone to do that, or how is that going to work?
This is a very good point. Actually, the idea is really, and this is one good news about our project business, is that so we also did quite a lot of technical research, and we see that regarding the hardware, 80% of what we need already exists. And this is a fantastic news, because it means that we can really be concrete. For the cybersecurity and the transmission, we are going to work with a professional, and also with a network of Swiss universities that are specialists in all these domains. The challenge is huge, and I think it makes it even more interesting. And I think the idea is to really to have the largest possible contribution for people that already have the knowledge. And what is interesting in this project, we put the knowledge of the young generation, the digital knowledge, with the more senior generation, that is the hardware knowledge.
And the wisdom, yeah. Most of the team looks like are based in Switzerland there, but you have offices in Slovenia and Serbia, right?
Yes, absolutely. So we have part of our engineering that is based in Serbia. We chose Ljubljana in Slovenia because this is a country that is really putting a lot of efforts in the green business. It's actually it's not a big country, so it's not so well known in the world, but it's the greenest country by far in Europe. So they are very favorable to green business there, and we are currently translating a white paper in Slovenian that we are in full line with the authorities. So this was, and they're also very open to new technologies, and we thought that it was a good mixture between what we wanted, what we needed, and because we wanted also to be in line with the countries that could welcome us. And the legislation is also interesting.
Now you're doing your ICO now. I'll put a link in the description to get to the site and all that. But I checked at your roadmap, and it goes back a ways. But are you is everything on target? And what you're doing? I had a couple questions on that. Basically, where we're at now, it looks like you're supposed to be making partnerships and talking with governments and industry leaders. How is the roadmap going? Is everything on track? And are you doing that?
Yes, so we are doing that. The idea in all this industry is that we discuss with very, very big groups and people well known, and we're at the stage where we have an interest, but obviously we have the priority is to make the prototype and functioning a prototype, and the idea is to develop it in layers. So we are not going to put in our hardware and in our software all the data in one go. So what we are going to do, we are going to start the system little by little, because the priority is to start it fast. So developing everything with the partnership, etc., is taking will take time, and we understand, because I am also coming from the industrial world, so I know that it takes time. So we try to launch as soon as possible the first prototype that will concentrate on the routing, and then from there we will go step by step to the other services that we can provide to the ship owner and to the community.
On the partnerships, I want to ask you a couple questions. Can you go over the partnership you have with the urban management?
Yes, so a partnership, Vuk, who is also on the white paper, that is the co-founder and is the CEO and COO at the same time, is bringing the project of reforestation that he is doing in Serbia, because idea we are very conscious that the blockchain is using some energy. We would like to offset the carbon emissions that are going to be linked to the development of products.
I think it's really basic and brilliant at the same time, because everyone has to agree that the biggest uses of crypto is gambling on gambling sites, but the biggest use of blockchain is supply chain. Every country
Absolutely.
is like, we got to get this on our supply chain for food and this. It's just so great. And like I said at the beginning, it's kind of the natural progression of the supply chain, the end result, because everyone just tracks it up till you use it.
Yes.
But there's a whole nother chain after that no one has really looked at. And I think if supply chain is so perfect for blockchain, then the waste management it's the same thing. It's just the other side. It's like the other side of the coin. No pun intended, crypto, but you have a lot of really impressive partnerships on the page. Can you tell me about any of them?
So the one that we are really looking at in priority is we have had the very, very serious discussion, and we will be able to sign a partnership agreement with this network of engineering schools that I specialize in all the software transmission, cybersecurity, etc. I have signed a confidentiality agreement, so I can't tell you who it is. But if I tell you that it's an association of schools, everybody who lives in Europe will understand who I am talking about. But they asked me to keep my word, so I keep it. And we have already had discussions with ship owners that we want to develop. And the name of the game in a couple of months is to really sign an agreement with a leader, development leader, because actually there are already some companies that work together for the digitalization of the containers. So they managed to digitalize the content of the boat, but what they did not manage yet is to digitalize everything, all the service that we offer, and we had a favorable reaction. Actually, to be very honest and very modest, we have this project is more than a baby. It's more than 9 months of work, plus all the previous experience in market research, etc. And since we presented already the draft of our white paper, I mean, everybody, I have not anybody that told me, no, it does not make sense. Everybody said it was really interesting.
It's not that it's surprising that no one's thought of it. You know what I mean? Because like I said, it's just the natural progression of supply chain logistics. It's like the next step. It's just so weird that, to me, that no one's it doesn't end there. You know what I mean? The product doesn't end right there. It goes on until it gets reused again and recycled, or it gets, it's waste. and it's like it just stops right there. It just it's so weird that no one has thought of that. Now it's just very surprising, very surprising.
Yeah, you have some attempts like the guys from TerraCycle, for example, very interesting. Reusing the pots, etc. I think one has to understand something. I think we have to change. The first thing that we have to do is to change the paradigm. Because for most of the industries, for most of the people, for most of the politicians, I mean, people, let me be straightforward, some of them are really not up to date, and I'm not using another word, because the paradigm is that we have to change our idea that waste is only a calamity. Waste is a calamity, but waste is an immense source of urban mining. There is more gold that is produced from e-waste gold than from all the mining in the world. And I think people should understand that the paradigm is also the same for other materials, so that waste can be also a source of not only moral cleaning, but also physical cleaning, also a source of profit, a source of saving. And I think only the new generation is grabbing that. I think the current generation of politician, unfortunately, is still understanding, waste, the externalities, not the Chicago boys, what was his name, was saying the pollution is not the company's problem. The company has to make profit and maximize profit, and the
Yeah,
rest.
you talk about shifting the paradigm. The way of thinking is such a consumer-based way of thinking. Like I said, you just like the supply chain ends when you use it, and then that's all we need. That's why it surprised me that no one thought of it. But you talked about you said that there's more gold wasted in trash than there is in mining. That's kind of, but it gets back to the consumer way of thinking. It's either out of fear or greed is what people are going to go for. Either fear, we're running out of everything, we have to do something right now. That's fear based, and that makes people take notice and do something, or just greed. You know what I mean? It's economically viable to worry about this, and you're hitting both those, which is good. And you mentioned e-waste and deforestation. Can this branch out to other waste and other chains of waste?
As soon as you have some barcodes, for example, I give you for computers, all computers can be measured, they're coded, and in every computer we exactly can know the number of grams of gold, of aluminum, of plastic, and we do exactly the same system. We enter the number of computers, and all the treatment is the traceability is validated backwards along the chain. So we can replicate that. So everything that will be tracing. We can talk about the tires, for example. We can talk about so many things. So this is why we're also so transparent, because really what we have to achieve, all of us, is so huge that I am calling everybody to cooperate and to understand and to take what's good. And this was also the idea of the blockchain. If I would have gone to a bank and get the financing, it would not have the same impact. So it has an impact. It's also through guys like you. It's going around the community. It's going, and I can feel here, at least in Europe, that the worry is getting serious. You have the youngsters that protested in the autumn, and I understand. I mean, one has to be blind to deny that there is a severe problem, and I think this should be a common effort. The question is, we need to change the paradigm very quickly and tend more and more towards the circular economy. I tell my students, for example, that we use twice less oil than in 1973, and I don't think that our standard of living worldwide has decreased by 50% since 1973. So there is this lack of understanding that sometimes smaller is better, and not bigger is better. We can have better quality with less quantities, and I think that we have to reprogram in some kind of the population. And I think that they were never that ready. So all our activities, they also come somehow at the right time. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when we were doing the market research on all this, it was considered as a source of headache by companies, as an administrative hurdle at some sectors where they thought that the risk of getting caught was absolutely so the old school, and I think the business has also got to understand that the best performing companies in the world today are the ones that take care of their stakeholders, including their environments.
Yeah.
Sorry, I get carried away.
Okay. No, you're good. It's like I said, with protests and all that, that's trying to change people's minds with the fear, which
yes,
it's not going to reach a lot of people. It really, like you said, a lot of companies are just like, oh, it's a hassle, it's a chore. But if you appeal to the greed side, you know what I mean? That reaches those other people. It's kind of like electric cars. Electric cars, well, you're giving up this, but you're going to help the environment. You're giving up speed, and you're giving up that. But then Tesla came out and was like, you're not giving up anything. It's even nicer. And it's a completely different thing. Most people that want a Tesla, they don't want a Tesla because it's electric and good for the environment. They want it because it's an amazing car, It's just
and it's fashionable.
Yeah, it's that you making it fashionable. On your ICO and on the tokens, I had a couple questions for you on that. The tokenomics look pretty good. So you have over 70% going out to the public that are going to be, held by the public in your sale. But on the usage, you got 23% for operations and management and 11% for general administrative. What are the funds going to be used for after the ICO and after you get launched?
So this is a very good question. I mean, when we get the ICO, because we really hope and think that we reach the soft cap, is really to start immediately two ways in parallel. One way is the technical development, because yes, the component exists, but the technical development, both of our software and our hardware, with the objective to launch the first prototype the soonest. And while we develop the product technically, we also have to develop the product politically. So, for example, our intention is, and Cindy, one of our team members, is very well that Geneva is another place of the UN. So to make the community also understand the UN, the International Maritime Organization, that we come with concrete ideas, with concrete projects. And I was very surprised because 2 days ago in a conference, I learned that the UN invented the SDGs, that they created the SDGs, but in the UN there is not $1 of budget to develop these SDGs. So we have the political work to make, we have the commercial work to make, because we have to fine-tune our business model with the ship owners. We have to meet the demand. So this is really a work that we consider more as a partnership than a relation from client to supplier, because we are all depending on each other. Our advantage is that it would take much more time and much more money for ship owners to create their own system, with already as advanced as we are, number one, and number two is not the core business. And my and our strategy is absolutely to go and to get the best specialists in every domain and team up with the best people, have enough budgets to fund the research and develop all according to these three directions that we just discussed.
And you're working with the UN now?
We have a discussion with the UN formal, informal, direct, indirect. But they also, you know, one of the things, because, you know, this is work in progress. This is, you know, I did not wake up one morning say, oh, wow, what an idea. This is a long process of communication, of discussion, of intervention, of, so the thing was built by all these people with whom we could dialogue, you see. But what has really struck me is actually, I think, that there are not so many people that just know how to tackle the issue. I think people, as you said, are panicked. They don't know. And actually, there is this kind of intellectual revolution that's to take place. And honestly, Sean, I think that the green revolution, the green peaceful revolution, is going to have even a bigger impact than the internet revolution. I mean, because we have to change, internet changed our way of living. The green business and the green mind is also going to change our way of living. We're going to think twice. It's so easy to throw the things into the garbage. So it
Yeah.
means that we also will probably work on educational program, because the way to manage the waste is also very much linked to how early you learned it in your life. It was a problem for my grandmother to wear a safety belt.
Hmm.
Today, nobody would not have the reflex just to buckle up. You see? So
Hmm.
this is this kind of working. So, and this is why we have old generation, because this is not going to be done in one day. So there is all this combination of elements that I'm sharing with you that is making the project at the same time very sophisticated and at the same time, like you said, very simple, because the objectives are clear. We know where we want to go. We know what is the problem, and we know how we want to achieve, and we will be able to federate other people to go into the same direction.
Well, I think, and speaking in the paradigm shift and just the wording and how people see what you're talking, eco awareness, basically. It's not geared towards the ocean at all. You talked about being in the 60s, deforestation, the green movement. It's not the blue movement. You know what I mean? But people just have kind of put oceans on the back burner, and I had grown up on it, on the shore. So the ocean's very important to me, um, and it's not something a lot of people in really developed countries think about or have to think about. People do think about it, but you don't have to because it's not in your face.
Exactly.
Um, and it's something easily put out of your mind. But like you said, it's not really the first world countries and all that, because it's being sent to these other places. But these places, if you see them, it's just horrific at what they're doing to nature, to the oceans. So I think it is really important, but I think people need to see it as important. But if you're not living on the coast, or you're not in a shore town or close, even if you visit it, if you go on holiday every 3 months, you're still not seeing it. You know what I mean? You're going to resort, you're going to a nice place. The water's perfectly clean. But if you look at even I think it was like Bali or Indonesia, they can't even have tourists because they've just trashed it so much, because people flick cigarettes out the window. Don't think about, it's just a little thing, but it creates huge wildfires. It's still trash. And that's how people just see the ocean. It's so vast. Like you said, it's the green revolution, and people focus so much on where we are as far as recycling and all that. But our world is covered by mostly blue. Um, and
Yes, yes, yes.
it's such a vital part of our existence. It's the basis for our existence. But it's something that really is overlooked. So like I said, I was really impressed with what you're doing, with the project in general. So I really wanted to talk to you. I think I hit everything I wanted to. Is there anything else you want to go over or talk about?
Well, actually, I just wanted to react on what you just mentioned on the sea. And actually, the luck when I was a child to have as a parents' friend oceanograph. So he was diving with Cousteau. And so he's the first guy who made me dive. Then I became a diving instructor. So I saw also the coral bleaching. Um, and maybe I was thinking that I make my exposure to emerging countries because I lived in emerging countries. I live in Turkey, in Ivory Coast, in Bulgaria, and etc. I think the problem is, as you said right away, it's more acute because it's in front of us. You go last trip I went to Douala in Cameroon. We have a city of 4.5 million people, and there is not one water purification station. There is not one e-waste dumping site, recycling. There is not one. It's the degree zero of the safety because it's not only a pollution issue and resource issue. It's also a physical health issue. I mean, there is a famous landfill in Ghana, Aboboloshi. I mean, it makes anybody cry when you see the impact, the toxicological impact on the population. But the oil waste is no better. The oil waste is destroying the oceans, such as the plastic. And I think we really have to. And I thank you very much for for having welcomed you in your show and in your talk. Uh, and I hope even if I can manage to convince one of your audience, is already something extraordinary. So the sea is really playing an importance for me, and I think you put a point on something that I did not stress the importance of. It was the sea in my life, for example. So the blue revolution, yes, but it's
Yeah.
blue and green, and you see, I wore a green T-shirt for the occasion,
Hmm.
and I mean, I am. We are a bunch of friends on top of colleagues of having the project. We can be contacted. We can deliver speeches. If people are more interested on the technical side, I mean, my technical guys, colleagues, they are at your disposal because I think if we do it together, the chances of getting successful are going to tremendously increase. And I wanted to thank you to give me the opportunity to share these elements with you.
Well, it's great talking to you. I appreciate you coming by and talking with everybody. I did want to patent green revolution or blue revolution and supply chain, waste chain, the next step. There we
Great.
go. All right. Well, you guys take care. It was good hanging out with you. I'll put links in the description for
Great.
the website and to get to everywhere.
Okay.
You guys take care. I'll see you in the next video.
Thank you
JC,
very much.
thanks for coming by.
Let's cross fingers. Take care. Bye-bye.